Hey everybody, and welcome to a special video here at InfernoFox Gaming. For today's topic, I'm joined by a special guest, Emily, from the YouTube channel Orbalology. And thank you so much, Emily, for joining us in our discussion here.
Thanks so much for having me on. What we're going to be covering today is part of the reason why I like collecting. So it'll be fun to talk about it in this kind of framework.
Absolutely, and Emily's got a lot of fantastic video game content on her channel that I absolutely recommend checking out. I've had some, get videos and everything like that a little bit on this channel, but Emily has an awesome collection, and that's what the sort of topic that we've got here today will be really eye-opening and really fantastic to go through here. And that topic, of course, today is going to be what 5 things that we would like to save from our respective collection and game room if disaster struck. And this is a topic that I've taken inspiration from a YouTube channel called Retro Rivals, so I definitely recommend check that out. And not only will I include links in the description below for both Emily's channel, but also Retro Rivals as well. And we're going to keep this topic to like a general disaster, I just want to focus on what we'd say versus getting into the nitty-gritty of like what the disaster is, what to do to try to avert the disaster, questions about why we'd save video game items versus other things like, humans and pets and so on. So
Other important things.
Absolutely. So really, without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into the discussion, and I'll sort of break things off here first. And the very first item that I want to save, and I'm going to grab it off camera here, and this is probably by far one of the biggest items that I'm going to save, and it is something that I got about 7 years ago, and that is my first 4 figures statue of Samus in her various suit. And this is roughly 21 inches tall, as evidenced by the size of my big head here. And the design is off of Metroid Prime, which of course I absolutely love. I love the Metroid series, and Samus herself, of course, as a heroine, because no matter what sort of disaster that seems to strike, she's always able to persevere and be able to explore and get her missions done. And what's really cool with this is if you missed out on the opportunity of this statue, First 4 Figures is working on releasing an 11-inch version of this. So, of course, again, 21 inches, so it's really about a foot smaller. Which, of course, I'm going to get the 11-inch one. I have no idea where I'm going to fit it in my room because my Samus section is totally filled, but definitely recommend picking that up. And one of the cool things with this is, I'm not sure you'll be able to, you will be able to see it, is that it lights up. And the newest version of the First 4 Figures one, that it will also do the same. It'll be able to see her face apparently within the helmet, which is really neat, and have a changeable arm, so definitely recommend picking that up. But I, for whatever reason, this one is probably one of my favorite all-time statues. Just the whole design on it, just the whole detail.
I love her pose, yeah.
Yeah, it's so awesome. And then you can I'll kind of lift up the base, and hopefully I don't tip it at all. It's the actual Samus logo, her own specific Metroid logo. I'm going to set her down because she's pretty heavy. I want to say Samus is about 10 to 15 pounds or something like that. So very hefty statue, and I love it.
5 things help the other things are light.
Yeah.
Taking on, I guess, the Metroid Prime remake, how did you think about the remake? I haven't played any of those, actually. So I've been thinking of diving into that one.
So
eventually.
One of the cool things with Metroid Prime is when that released on the GameCube in 2002, it was like the pinnacle of how games looked and ran back then, just graphics-wise and gameplay and everything like that. And if you tried to play that 02 version now, it would still look good. The funny thing with Remastered is it feels like that feeling that you got when you originally played the 02 one. So if you jumped into it without playing the 02 one, you're not going to miss a beat, because it looks and feels and runs absolutely amazing. I would argue that and maybe Luigi's Mansion 3 are probably the best looking Nintendo Switch games. I don't know how Nintendo and Retro Studios did it, but it's a absolute must buy and must play. If you like, of course, that first person exploration type gameplay loop.
Yeah, I haven't played one of those in a while, so yeah, I'll have to see if I can snag it. I've been seeing it on sale into like discount recently, like on GameStop for recent sales.
Oh my god!
Maybe I'll have to plunge into that.
Yeah, the recent GameStop sales were nuts. I spent like $100 and got like 6 or 7 games. All but one were for my partner, but like I'm like, okay, I can't miss these. And when
did they come complete, or did they get a generic case?
Complete. These were like new. I've been burned on the pre-owned before, where like, it's like 4 for $40, or you get even like 10 for $80, and I haven't had as good a luck with that. But yeah, these were new news. I'm like, ooh, I couldn't pass it up.
I don't know if you saw on Twitter, a lot of people are getting like the sleeves or like a generic case with the so-called new GameStop games.
Oh my gosh, that's
so bad. So very cool first pick. So yeah. I guess I'll share mine next. I also have a statue. It's one that I got this past year, and it was one that's been on my holy grail list for a long time. And another Nintendo IP. So I have Cordelia here from Fire Emblem Awakening.
Oh, awesome!
And, yeah, I love her. She looks so good. And she's so difficult to find on the aftermarket. They didn't make, I think, a lot of these when she initially released, closer to when Awakening came out on the 3DS. So her aftermarket prices have been a bit crazy, but I was able to get her on a Japanese proxy service for a better price. It was still expensive, but it was a better price.
Oh, that's awesome. And Awakening is such an amazing game. It is. Wasn't that the one that actually like saved Fire Emblem? They were talking about not doing any more after that, and then
yeah, it was their last hurrah basically. And they revised the formula. They added casual mode to incentivize new players to come in who were afraid of the permadeath options that I think scared off a lot of people initially on the franchise. And they also kind of beefed up the I guess support and like romantic kind of dialogues too, I think, to draw in a different sort of crowd. And I really appreciate it. It was actually my first Fire Emblem, so it was the first introduction for me, and I absolutely loved it. And
yeah,
I've been really into them since.
Me as well, honestly. Besides Smash Brothers with Marth and Roy being added to Melee, like I'd never played an actual Fire Emblem game before, and so it begs the question. I'm going to have to ask this because you and I see the Lyn in the background there. When do you think they're going to do a Lucina statue like that?
I hope they do.
I know they did the little Figma, but like I want like the how they had the Marth you can kind of see up in the corner. Like I want that, but with like
Marth actually the other week. He's so pretty, but yeah, I don't know. It's been interesting the rollout of all the new intelligence system figures. I know Gloria just came out recently, and that one was super expensive. And I have the other one for Fates on pre-order that's coming out next year. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like they essentially started those figures because of Fire Emblem Engage to celebrate Fire Emblem's anniversary. I forget which year it was, but it was like a pivotal year last year. But the game was delayed, and so now we have all these figures, and then Engage came out. So I'm kind of curious if they'll continue rolling them out, because I feel like they're pretty popular still, and the quality of the figures have been really good.
Yeah,
I feel like they kind of improve every time.
I've been really amazed just with like, because I have Marth and I have Byleth. I've been humming and hawing on getting like Ike and Roy, but just they're amazing. They're great figures.
Yeah, they are. So massive. And I think that Roy too. I skipped out on his pre-order because of the jump in price they did when they announced his. But I'm hoping like maybe Good Smile US would have it discounted like they have the other past Fire Emblem figures. But it depends how much leftover quantity they have, I think.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I've debated on Ike, because I've seen him on sale for like 30% off, and I'm like, oh, those deals, it's hard to miss, hard to pass up.
Yeah, and with I too, like he comes in a massive box, so you have to be careful about shipping, depending on who you buy him from.
That's very true.
Ami, I forget what the shipping price was, but that's where I got him. Actually, close to his release date, I got him discounted because he wasn't like a perfect box, and so they massively discounted him. Like, okay, I'll just take him. Yeah, shipping I think in Japan has been going up recently too.
Oh yeah.
So be careful about.
I wonder if
the yen's been great to the USD.
Yeah, with how strong the US dollar's been, that's been fantastic for us collectors.
Yeah, you get like at least like a 35% off right now on the recent or the current conversion rate.
It's awesome. Yeah, that's nice. And speaking of Grail statues, I do have to show my second save, and that is going to be this Cloud from Final Fantasy VII statue here. And fortunately, this isn't like carrying a big moose like it was my Variasuit Samus statue. This one's only like 2 or 3 pounds, if that. And so this apparently came out in the Static Arts line back in 2009, and I got it around 2015. Kind of the same sort of thing as you, Emily, where with Cordelia, right? With Cordelia, where paid a little bit more than how it was when it was originally released, but like I definitely had to get this because Cloud probably is my second favorite Square Enix character. My number one is Locke from Final Fantasy VI from that particular entry, but I love just how it looks because of course he's in his standard pose with the Buster Sword on his back, and you kind of sort of see the rays of sunlight in the background, and the flowers, and even like the boards sort of make it seem like he's standing in Aerith's church over the flowers. And what's cool too is there's a Sephiroth variant of this, and I actually never picked that up because I'm not like that big into the villains or the Sephiroth or anything like that. But this was definitely something that like I absolutely had to try and get. And when I really got into statues, I think this was actually the second or third statue that I'd ever gotten, and I'm like, oh, it was definitely a good get for me. So
yeah, I feel like a lot of people start small with staff figures, so I kind of plunged into scale figures too. Actually, I haven't ordered any of the Square Enix figures. I always felt like, I don't know if it's just the prototype photos, the faces always look a little off to me. So I've been afraid to like try and dabble with theirs, and there hasn't been like an IP that I've been really wanting to get a particular character at this time. But I feel like down the line, eventually I'll probably grab something.
It's so funny you say that because I was kind of the same. Like I don't like the actual like action figures with the opposable arms and everything like that. I like the static ones where
it's fun. Yeah, already.
And I was a little worried about like the quality of a lot of that, but I got the Aerith statue, the party dress Aerith statue, I think like a year ago, and the detail on the face and everything like that is amazing. So sometimes the pictures don't really do that justice, but like it's really fantastic.
That's why I haven't pulled the trigger yet on any of them. So I feel like eventually I will.
Yeah,
it might be a while. So. I feel like I've been overdosing on figure collecting this past year. I've been trying to slow down, but they keep coming out. My favorite series. It really is. But yeah, actually, I've been playing the OG Final Fantasy VII, trying to get into all the remakes, Crisis Core Reunion, and then of course Final Fantasy Remake, and the new one coming out next year. So I've been trying to play more Final Fantasy, which I guess we'll talk about later.
Yeah, absolutely. I think with how big you are with Kaseki, that's me with Final Fantasy. But so what's your number 2 choice that you got that you would save?
I guess I'll continue with the Fire Emblem theme. So this is probably the most expensive game in my collection. So that's partly why I chose it, but also I just love this franchise, of course. And this is just impossible probably to find again for a reasonable price. And that is the Fire Emblem Fates Special Edition.
Oh, awesome!
Yes. Yeah, I actually wasn't able to purchase this when it came out for pre-order. It was in the middle of grad school for me, so I wasn't as up on like gaming news at that time, so I didn't actually realize this came out when it did. So I got it, I want to say, a year later on the aftermarket, and I did pay a pretty penny for it. I paid like, I think it was like around 150, but it goes for like well over 450 now. So I feel like that was probably a good idea, good of me to do at the time, because this is the only way to now play the third route. It has all the games on the single cart, which, as 3DS collectors know, the eShop closure, it's hard to get a hold of this unless you want to emulate. But if you want to, have it in your collection and think of game preservation that way, it's a really nice thing to have in your collection.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can only hope so far that Nintendo or other companies are going to port or remake or remaster these on systems. I mean, maybe there's a little bit of hope because, Luigi's Mansion 2, Dark Moon is being ported or remastered.
GameCube games being ported now. I feel like 3DS will have its time, but it's probably going to be a while, and I think out of the Fire Emblems, they're going to do Awakening before Fates.
Absolutely. And that one I'm hoping and / counting down the time for them to announce that, because like that's still, I've played maybe about 5 or 6 Fire Emblem games myself, and that one's still my favorite.
Yeah, it's a great one. Of the 3DS games, are actually out of all of the Fire Emblem games I've played so far, because I've only done Awakening, Post Awakening for the most part, with a little dabbling in the Game Boy games, more Game Boy Advance games. But Shadows of Valentia was my favorite. I don't know if you've gone to that one yet on the 3DS, but I thought that remake was just brilliant, and I liked how they kind of changed the story pacing, where you had the canon romance and you had like 2 different armies that intermingled that you controlled. It was pretty cool. Well done.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's on my list of 3DS gets. Like my 3DS collection is good, but like I have Fates and I have Awakening. For some reason, I totally missed the boat on Valencia.
I might get that. I think they at least have the World Edition. That's fairly easy to get now, but I don't think the prices have gone. I've been tracking them, but I don't think the prices have gone too badly.
Have you tried or seen Genealogy of the Holy War?
I haven't. I keep hearing how that's a lot of people's favorite.
Yeah, that's a one that I'm really hoping Nintendo will. They're probably gonna.
Actually, that's the next remake. So,
I'm hoping they announce that maybe in February on their next Direct.
That'd be awesome. I would be day one for me.
So,
there's not that many games I go day one for anymore, but all the Fire Emblem games I definitely do.
Yeah,
their special editions whenever possible.
Absolutely, and Fire Emblem ones you can't go wrong. As you just mentioned, the Fates one, that the pricing on that is crazy.
Off the chart.
Okay, so and speaking of the pricing structures and everything like that, the third thing that I would have on my save list was one of my more recent acquisitions, and that is Chrono Trigger for the Super Nintendo. And this is not the original box. It looks like it because it's from CustomGameCases.com.
Nice repo.
Yeah, they do like an awesome job with reproductions of cases. When I decided to re-up and reproduce the Game Boy and Game Boy Advance collection that I used to have, I got all the cartridges. I actually decided to go with them to have the reproduced cases and everything like that. So I'm like, okay, if I get anything else that's non-Game Boy, I'll just go with them. So that's when I decided to go with this. And it's actually part of what I call the Hardicus line, and that's actually a nickname for one of my friends that I purchased this off of. And here, of course, is the game. It's nice because it has a slot, and as the bonus, he also included the instruction booklet that he saved. And it was a real minch for him to be able to give this up, but I got him a good deal on it, and it's definitely something that, like, how much that it meant to him to be able to hold on to and to have and let me have. It's definitely something that I'm going to save, and that's totally discounting like the fact that it's Chrono Trigger and that it's the US version of Chrono Trigger. This is what I would argue is one of the best video games of all time. And I'm a Super Nintendo nut, and just having one of the best games on my favorite system, it's just I definitely can't get enough of this game.
And it's a part of video game history. So it's great to have that on the shelf. I actually got the Japanese DS version because that has English on the cart.
Oh, nice.
For my collection. Because I can't shell out money for the US copy of the DS version, or I don't have a Super Nintendo or anything, or the older consoles. But yeah, I remember playing Chrono Trigger in college. I was using the emulator on my laptop at the time, and I got stuck on one part. I think it was like the chasing scene, and I just couldn't get the keyboard combinations in time or something.
Oh,
so I
no.
gave up. So I really want to replay it and see it through.
Yeah, and for some weird reason, they haven't ported that to any of like current gen consoles. It's on Steam and PC and good old mobile phones, but like, come on, Square Enix, get on it, port it.
Yeah, I find it odd as well. So I'm wondering, how companies are going towards the subscription service? I feel like it's going to be on that.
Because like that would be an easy win. Although I would say that maybe they're holding off. Like, why wasn't Super Mario RPG on the NSO service? Because they're doing the remake. Is that something they're thinking of with Chrono Trigger?
It's possible, and there's been that rumor of a lot of Square Enix remakes. Like I think Final Fantasy IX has one, Final Fantasy Tactics. There's just so many titles that Square Enix just holds. I guess they've learned from last year of not releasing too many things all in the same window. Like all those RPGs that no one bought because
oh my gosh,
all came one after the other.
And I think,
we'll see.
I think one of the other rumors I've heard is that now they're doing a remaster of 10, and then they're working on 10.3 supposedly.
I didn't hear that one, but that'd be interesting.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's not going to follow the radio show, because I think there was some sort of like radio show or something where they continued the storyline after 10.2. I vaguely heard or recalled something with that. I hope it doesn't do anything with that, because...
Was that on Japanese radio, or is that also in English?
I think so. I don't think that was in the 10 and 10.2 HD remaster collection, but...
I don't remember that.
But yeah...
And I know a lot of people don't like 10.2.
Very polarizing. Very
Yeah.
The biggest compliment that I've heard is that maybe the story isn't for people, but the gameplay and battle system is fantastic. So
Eventually, when I get that, I'll have to play it. I got the Asian English version on the Switch, so that they're all in the same cart. So I don't have to worry about whenever the download code expires on those other versions.
I know, right? Like, but that's how I've got a good majority of my Final Fantasy collection is the physical on cart. But more to come on that as we get to showing some more.
Yeah, we can keep dipping into this. I will also talk about a recent Grail addition to my collection, and this is one of my favorite franchises and one of my favorite games. It's, I would say, one that the first few hours you kind of have to make comparisons to the first entry, but once you get in, you kind of just fall in love with all the characters, and it kind of sticks with you, and also kind of grow a fondness for everything, even after you beat the game. That is Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
Ooh, so, nice.
I missed out on this special edition. I remember it being in my Amazon cart for the longest time during the pandemic, and then once Fire Emblem Mythra were announced to Smash Bros., everyone was snapping us up, and it was almost impossible to get the base game, I remember. But I was patient and waited for a good deal on the next large box version of this, and I'm very pleased to now have it, and it's a great thing to have on your shelf, and also I think the art book it comes with is fantastic. What I don't like about Nintendo limited editions, at least recently, is whenever they include a soundtrack, it's always a sample selection. It's a little lame, especially because they usually always, sell the full collection later on, but it's nice to always have some songs when you're first playing the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Xenoblade, all three games have an amazing, amazing soundtrack. We're not even talking about like the story characters, how it looks on the Switch. Not even touching on how fantastic that is. Just the music in there is
It's
awesome.
just God tier. It's so good. I bought the fancy box, the Trinity box with all of it.
That's awesome.
Immortalize that music. And what sucks though, it just comes with X. But hoping we'll see something about Xenoblade Chronicles X in the next Switch or Nintendo iteration. But we'll see.
Yeah, maybe a thing they'll do with the NG Switches, do some sort of Xenoblade Chronicles X port or remaster and have that be a launch title or something.
Yeah, I wonder if Monolith Soft wants to continue that line, because that game is so different from the other Xenoblade games. I think people will be open to it.
Absolutely. The storyline for that really is intriguing in of itself. Before the Wii U shop totally closed down, I actually took the time to buy and download all of the DLC and everything for that, just to make sure that the physical version of X that I have will be able to run smoothly on the Wii U if I.
That's good. Yeah. I heard people trying to buy it now, they don't have those patches. It's not as great. It's sad. I don't have a Wii U, so we've just been holding out to maybe someday I'll come back. Along with all the other, early Xeno games like Xenosaga, which is also having rumors of a remake. We'll see if Bandai Namco's game or not. And then Xenogears, of course. That's another Square Enix title they need to release again.
Yeah,
it's complete, maybe. I don't know.
With how remake,
it's not complete.
Yeah, and with how remake and remaster happy all these companies are, I feel like it's almost a matter of time, right? You would think.
It's easy money too. I feel like you already have a built-in fan base, and then people are intrigued and want to try it after hearing all the hype over the years. Like, I feel like it's just easy money for them at this point. They don't have to reinvent the wheel with a new IP.
Absolutely.
Like, we see that in movies nowadays. Like, they're all rehashes of what we've seen before.
Yeah, I know. Like, Disney is probably like the number one culprit at doing live actions of everything. The next one that I want to show really isn't anything that is it's. I'll just say that it's unique. For this one, it is a picture that I have, and it's actually really a cool story where my partner and I have gone to a number of they call them Distant World concerts for Final Fantasy, and this is where they often have the primary conductor. His name is Arnie Roth. He tours the country and conducts local orchestras. Like, for me being in the Chicagoland, it's the Chicago Symphony Orchestra, and then conducts them and plays music from various Final Fantasy entries. And my partner and I, we've gone to a number of these concerts because she's a huge fan of the 8th entry. She's also played the 10th, and then I'm, of course, a nut for the entirety of the series. And one of the times I bit the bullet and ended up purchasing one of the VIP ones, and the one that I had with the VIP, Nobuo Uematsu, the conductor for the first 9 entries, the conductor, he actually made all of the music for the first 9 entries. When I had the VIP, he attended every single one except the one that I was VIP on. So it ended up being a thing where we got to meet the Arnie and a couple others, but we missed the opportunity to meet Nobu-san. We ended up the next time that he actually appeared, Distant Worlds contacted me and said, "Hey, we have a couple open slots for VIPs. You paid for it last time. Would you like to actually meet him?" And I'm like, yeah. So one of the things we got is we got a picture of ourselves with Nobu-san and Arnie Roth. Of course, you see myself, my partner, and then Arnie Roth, and then, of course, the great Nobuo Uematsu. And I've got the ticket stub with his signature and Arnie Roth's as well. And this is it's something where when I met him, it was something where he only knows Japanese. He did have a translator there, so it was like I could only say one thing to him to what do you say to somebody who you listen to their music and remixes of music for other fans? So I remember just saying thank you for doing everything that you do and that you've done. And he was just like, oh, arigato. He thanked me for supporting him, and it was one of those like really meta moments, and it's something that hangs like right above my Final Fantasy collection, just because it was an amazing experience, and it's an amazing picture.
Yeah, it's a great memento for that, for sure. I haven't met anyone unless I'm like a mega fan of yet. I dread the idea of doing that. You know,
I was worried.
What do you meant? Like, what do you say?
Exactly. What do I say? What do I do? And like, I had a thing where my partner is a huge fan of like the TV show Supernatural. So for one of our anniversaries, I bought a meet and greet, and she got to meet
Supernatural Con.
Yeah, exactly. We got to meet Jared and Jensen. And like when she went up to Jared and Jensen, like her face was like beet red, and she was all talking all soft and
shy.
And she's gonna kill me when she hears this, but like she was all shy and everything like that. But they were super nice, and it's kind of like the same thing. It's like when you get the opportunity to meet the individuals that have had such an impact on really who we are as individuals, it's meta to say the least, and it's something that I'm just to this day so super grateful for.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, regarding Supernatural, I went to San Diego Comic-Con for quite a while, and they always had a cool panel. They always seemed like fun dudes. So I'm sure that con would have been fun.
Yeah, it was really cool. A lot of super fans there.
I'm sure. I know some that I follow, like I'm mutuals with on Twitter. Whenever they go, it's always sounds like a huge event.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I guess I'll share the next one. I don't have anything quite as sentimental as that. I'm very jealous. I really want to go to like some like comic or like game conventions and meet. I don't know if I want to meet them, but at least from a distance, see, people I'm fans of. But I'll share the next one that has sentimental attachment to me, and that is my Link Between Worlds 3DS. So,
it's awesome.
This is, the game, or the console I got after taking a break from gaming because I had school and everything, and I saved up once I heard of the second game that's very similar to A Link Between, or A Link to the Past, which is one of my all-time favorite games. I played it on the GBA when I was young, and I was really excited to see Link, fused into the walls and see how that works on the 3D device, because I never had a DS. My brother had one, but the 3DS sounded really cool to me, and so this was the first large purchase I made after being an adult, working adult in grad school. And doing teaching and stuff. So, and it's kind of what kickstarted my whole video game collecting journey too. Because as a child, I didn't collect too much. I had Beanie Babies that I was just gifted because it was an easy thing to give me, But the collecting bug really started, I would say, after getting my 3DS and wanting to experience more games and just how cool, playing physical media like that.
That's awesome, and that's a really I'm jealous because I've got the Mario and Luigi Dreamstar Saga
Dream Team.
Dream Team 3 special 3DS, because of course it's Luigi, and Luigi is my favorite Nintendo character, so that's cool for me. But I remember I'm did I miss the boat on not getting the Link Between Worlds? And then I asked myself the same thing when the Smash Brothers went. Did I miss the boat by not getting the Smash Brothers? Because
there are so many cool 3DS hardware. I'm surprised the Switch hasn't had as many. I guess because the 3DS was that sweet spot. It wasn't too expensive, and people would be willing to buy multiples of it. But so many cool designs. I wish I got the Fates one because of the black and white with the full dragons on it. Really wish they made a Xenoblade one. They had those, those 8 changeable plates for the new 3DS. I kind of wish I got one of those. But
I missed the boat on new 3DS, even the new 2DS. I wouldn't have minded that because I didn't really use too much of the 3D.
The new TDS, it has an interesting feel. It feels like if you kind of like, shake it a bit, it doesn't feel as substantial as the new 3DS. I have the new 3DS XL that I primarily play, and I have a One Piece actually cover on it with the girls from One Piece on it.
Oh, cool.
that I love. It's actually up here. Let me see if I can grab it. Not up later. Yeah, I have this.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, you have Nami and Robin, and then Billy Hancock.
Oh, very nice.
So, yeah, I really love the 3DS, and I think that's a great, I think, console to get back into gaming with.
Yeah, it's really awesome, and just I feel like the 3DS's game selection, that and the DS were really, really good. Yeah, there was a bit of shovelware from the no-namers, but like some of the first party and even some of the third parties, amazing.
Yeah, I think they're both great for JRPGs, especially. There's just so many unique titles that we haven't seen ported anywhere else. That it's a little sad if they get buried there. And I just love handheld gaming. There's just something so nostalgic for me because my first console was the Game Boy Color.
Oh, cool.
So I played that and the Game Boy Advance for a long time before I eventually got a PS2. Like my brother and I did.
That's
so
awesome.
I just have so many fond memories just of handheld gaming. So that's my kind of go-to way to game mostly these days. So.
Yeah, and it's nice to where like you can have something on the TV if you want, and have the handheld gaming, and you really just be set.
You could just sit anywhere. Like I usually like game on bed or on the couch, or you bring it wherever you want to too.
And if you travel
there's
for
so many
work,
possibilities.
like
yeah.
the Switch has been a godsend for me. Like I've had to try like. One of my last positions where I was traveling about 4 times, it doesn't sound like much, but like 4 times a year, like just being able to bring the Switch with me was like amazing, because it's like, oh, I've got my one of my main consoles with me, and I can play it on the plane, and if I decide to have the dock it in the hotel room, and boom, I'm set.
Yeah, I like bringing the Switch Lite. Like I got the OLED for the first time this year, and I'm always afraid to bring it outside. So I only travel with my Lite. And then also the PS Vita is, I think, a great traveling handheld.
Oh yeah,
3DS is good. It's a little bit clunky, and the battery life sounds good. The Vita or the Lite.
Which is surprising. You would think the 3DS would be better, but I don't know.
I think those batteries don't last well. I need to actually, before the Nintendo store online takes them off, I need to buy some replacements.
That's a good idea, actually.
But whatever happens in the future, if they become harder to find, or the third-party ones are sucky,
Exactly. Now, my last choice of what I would save, so mine was a toss-up. I was thinking, like, do I do the Pixel Remaster for Final Fantasy, just because how nuts I am with the series, and this is not the Play Asia, this is the one where Square Enix opened up pre-orders at 2 in the flippin' morning for some stupid reason. I actually got the collector's edition because, again, I'm insane. Final Fantasy, I'm nuts when it comes to the series. So it was cool where they shipped the big box, and then they shipped it separately, So like they have everything came in like a big box, of course, but the actual collector's edition is its own its own separate box, and then they had this. So
I guess they did that because they also offered the PS4 version, so it was just easy to pick the game outside.
Yeah, absolutely. So like it would totally make sense for like a Final Fantasy collector nut such as myself. But I'm not picking that. I instead am gonna pick. This is a weird one. It's a 3D box, 3D art box, and it's from my favorite game of all time, and that, of course, is Final Fantasy III. And this is, of course, the Super Nintendo version, where it's says Final Fantasy III, really it's Final Fantasy VI, as evidenced by the logo. And I actually had this custom made by an Etsy shop that literally doesn't exist anymore, and it's one of the pivotal scenes from the game where it's the Falcon rising from the ocean, and it really signifies like hope lost and hope regained, where the main party is getting back together, and they're trying to find one another so that they can rise up and beat, of course, the main villain of the game being Kefka. And just with it being my favorite game and kind of being a room to hold my original cartridge, it's just really it's just epic. And even really the little character sprites that we had inputted on the sides and everything, and the 3D style, like it's just I have to save this because it's just how much the game particularly for me means to me. And of course has my favorite character of all time, Locke, because again, I'm a nut. Love the game too much.
Well, that's neat. Yeah, I always love those shadow boxes that you see on Etsy. I've been tempted by a few of them, but I haven't pulled the trigger because I don't know where to put them.
Yeah,
a very limited space.
I've got a few set up on my walls, which is it's cool, great decor. But the problem, of course, is that detracts and removes shelf space. Because you can put up shelves. But no, I've got art and some of the shadow boxes. So
I guess I'll reveal. Or I haven't played Final Fantasy VI, but we'll talk more about Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
At the end, I guess. But I'm very curious, I guess, to hear more about your love for Final Fantasy soon. But the game series I really love is Kiseki, and I had a really difficult time, of figuring out what specifically from my collection I would save. And there's actually a new figure that was announced of my favorite character, Estelle. So I feel like that's going to soon be my kind of Braille figure. To finally own her, because I have her little Nendoroid Petite one, but she has a full-on scale of her fit from Trails in the Sky. But I decided to go with Trails of Cold Steel 3 Collector's Edition, which also comes with this cute Nishi collection. This is probably going to be the most difficult thing in my Kiseki collection to replace. So that's mostly why I chose it, but I think it just kind of signifies, or it's really just, I think, a cool collector's edition to own. NAS America does these really cool compact ones, which I love, but that box is just, I think, a really cool thing on the shelf. And I love Trails of Cold Steel too, which we'll talk about soon too. I'm
actually in the middle of playing the third entry here, and it's really good. I've really enjoyed the first two. And it's a really good segue to sort of discuss Kiseki and Trails and everything. So, as I mentioned, like I've played the first two from beginning to end. And for those of us listening and watching it, that these games are awesome RPGs, but if you decide you want to get into it, you want to make sure you've got enough time that you can invest in them, because the first entry, for example, I got through maybe about 50 hours, and then the second one took me about 60 hours. And the third...
in turbo mode?
On and off. Like any of the battles, if you're grinding in battle... That's another really good thing with the Kiseki and Trail series is I didn't have to really grind that much. Like the gameplay and the battles,
there's really good pacing for your level, and I think the game designs it around that, so you don't have to just spend hours grinding.
Yeah, that is in my opinion, that's a sign of really good RPG design, and it's something a lot of the really old school RPGs. Honestly, I'm going to be fair here because I'm a big Final Fantasy fan. Lack, like especially like the early Final Fantasies, like 1 and 3.
I see why they did it though.
Yeah.
People had few games to buy at the time, so they want to spend as much time in it as possible, and that was a good way to sink time in.
Absolutely. In a lot of ways, you really extend your investment on a lot of those games and everything.
There's so much content in the Trails games; they don't need that filler.
Yeah, and it's all really high quality stuff too. And what's funny for me is my introduction to Trails wasn't Trails or Kiseki. It's the Ease series. Like I know after the start of the time that rhymes with Schmandemic, I got into both Dragon Quest and Ease and played the entirety of the series during that time frame. And what was really cool is when I played the first Trails game, is the overall aesthetic was so much like maybe E's memories of Salsetta, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this looks like this, but it's a turn-based RPG, and I love turn-based RPGs, and like I jumped in with like head first. It was awesome. So
How did you started with Cold Steel? Did you have or was it because it was easy to play on console you did that instead of going back to the Sky games, or what was your thought process?
Yeah, so I started with Trails of Cold Steel 1 and 2 because really ease of access. I played them on the Steam Deck because while they're playable on the Switch in Japan, they have not released translated copies of 1 and 2 on the Switch yet. Here in North America, and I think there's rights issues that's actually preventing that, if I'm remembering right.
They haven't officially said it, but I think there's a localization issue because they changed publishers. They were with Exceed, Marvelous for the first two games, and now the third game Beyond has been with NAS America. So that's kind of the speculation right now, what the issue is.
Okay, and that totally makes sense. I still wish that we could get that some way somehow. I want to complete my collection.
Because right now in China or Asia they have the first two games on Switch. It's too bad.
So really based on just your own personal history with this series, would you say Kiseki is your just all-time favorite RPG series? Is that your number one?
I think my number one alongside Xenoblade. Xenoblade kind of snuck in there this past couple of years. I think they're both just really, they have great storytelling, which is, I think, one of the things I love about RPGs in particular. I think what Kiseki does really well is they've built upon this specific story and multiple story arcs, and they're all interconnected, and it's so cool to see some NPCs from some of the early games come back in some of the later games, and it's really, they have this, like, apparently Falcom has a master list of all the characters they've done, all the events, just to make sure that all the story elements are consistent throughout all the games. So it's pretty crazy how they've been able to manage that.
I totally agree, and like one of the cool things when I was finishing up Trails 2 was at a certain point in the game, you actually switch characters for like a couple hours, and it's a character that I'd never seen before, and I'm like, why is it doing that? And I'm like, wait a second, he's part of this other Switch game that I just got, and I'm like, oh my gosh, was that Trails of Azure, or am I? I'm trying to think of this. It's not. I know he's in Reverie, but there's Azure.
The Crossbell game.
Crossbell, yes, yeah. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've seen him from the Crossbell games that I just got. I'm like, oh, it's cool. I get to play as him for a little bit. I'm like, that's really neat. And I'm like, oh wait. And then when the scenario of that ends and I have to fight a boss, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is really. I'm not going to do any spoilers for anybody who wants to get into the series, but who I ended up fighting was like, wow, that's really trippy.
There's so many interesting, I highly recommend that you do play the Crossbell series before you, I guess, maybe go into 4, Cold Steel 4. There are some elements I think you want to definitely know before seeing the ending, and also definitely Reverie. Brings it all together.
I'm not touching Reverie until I'm done with the 2 Crossbell games. Would you say, though, I'm safe finishing 3 before I get into the Crossbell?
Finish it, for sure. Okay. I just would caution you about 4.
Okay, good to know. I'm not gonna. I won't touch.
If you can, I know there's a lot of fans who just did, Cold Steel before the Crossbell games were even vocalized. But since the Crossbell games are, easily accessible now, they're fun in their own right. They're actually one of my favorites. I think out of everything so far, it's hard for me to rank them all, but I think Trails from Zero and Trails to Azure, I think, are the most cohesive and interesting story out of the 3 arcs that have been localized so far.
Now,
they did good things there.
So, did you end up playing Trails in the Sky on the PS2? Vita?
So what I did was I hacked my Vita, and so I could play the Evo versions because those were never localized here. And what the fans did was they took the translations from the PC version and put them onto the Evo versions, which had updated graphics and other upgrades. So those are kind of the definitive ways to play Trails in the sky right now.
So my just thinking about it now, are Trails in the Sky available on Steam? Did I miss the boat on that? Oh,
Trails in the Sky, all 3 are on Steam. So when you mentioned the Steam Deck, I was going to insert something, but
okay,
you definitely go play those. I love Estelle. You should definitely play her art so you can learn more about her, because she is, of course, in the other Theater, Steel, Cold Steel, and the Red Creek games as well.
Oh my gosh, I'm definitely gonna have to check that out now.
They're so charming too. Like, they came out originally on the PSP, and I just love the sprite characters of the early Trails, and I think the isometric view is really satisfying in that game. Like, when because I started with Trails in the Sky on the first one, and then I jumped to Cold Steel because the cross-spell games weren't localized at the time. And the jump from the cute chibi art with isometric view to the 3D renderings on the PS3 era stuff was a little jarring at first. But yeah, they're super charming. I highly recommend that you go back and play those.
I didn't know that. It's funny. You would have thought I would have known that, but I'm that's going to be a November Steam sale pickup for me, because
they go on sale regularly. They're really good at discounting those compared to some of the Cold Steel games.
Oh man, yeah, that's going to be an insta pickup for me. I will absolutely have to do that. Yeah, Steam Deck is really nice too, because being able to have a Switch competitor. I'm saying that, but I'm not saying that. But yeah, it's really been cool to have. So that's
yeah. I don't have a Steam Deck, but I've been thinking about it. I'm actually waiting to see if they'll come out with a more slimmed down version, because I've held one, my brother has one. I find it really clunky, and it's hard to hold for long periods of time.
Yeah,
so I'm hoping they slim it down eventually.
I do have to say they are pretty chunky, and like if you manage to lose your grip on, not saying I've ever done that, but if it hurts when it falls.
If you're holding it up.
Yeah.
I always have to rest it on a pillow.
I think that's going to be the better way to play with that. So based on the Trail series being your favorite, I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this. Who is your favorite character in Kiseki overall?
It's Estelle, hands down. She's great. I think her character progression throughout the series, it's just one of the best written, I think, in video games that I've experienced, and what I've heard other people have experienced as well. And there's just something very endearing about her. She's very positive and wants to do the right thing, but it's not in a savior kind of complex way. Sometimes how characters are written, and very genuine, I think, in what she wants, her goals, and how she drives towards them.
That's awesome. Wow, yeah.
She's one of the best female characters written, I think, and also just JRPG protagonists in general.
That's awesome. You're going to make me really want to play the Trails in the Sky series that much more.
Yep.
Gosh.
She is like a little teenager brat in the first game, but you see the growth.
No, that's cool. What about overall in the Kiseki series? So did you finish Reverie? You're completely
No, I haven't touched it because I want to replay 3 and 4 on the PS5.
Oh,
so
man.
I'm tempted. I might just play my PS4 versions on my PS5 during the winter break, because I'm going to have some PTO. Lots of gaming sessions in, and then get to Reverie.
Are you going to pick up the combined 3 and 4 for the PS5? Did you plan on doing?
Yeah.
I want to double dip. There's a part of me that wants to double dip.
You need to be triple dipping.
Like I've done that with the Ease series on the Switch and PS4. Just because I know if I don't get them.
Games, they're great. I think they're a great investment. I'm not talking about monetarily, but also monetarily, for being honest. But I think they make great games, and it's, I think, something worth owning on multiple consoles. The replay factor and just own.
And it's a thing where it's not like a super huge, well-known thing that's going to sell like Elden Ring level copies. So we want to support these series, and sometimes if double dipping helps the company to okay, we're seeing a lot of sales, and even if it's the same people buying 3 copies.
Honestly, this is, I think, what's helped with them getting a bit faster with the localization, because they announced Trails from Daybreak, and we thought that's not going to come for a long time because it's just how slow the localizations have been, and how Falcom doesn't give it their all the scripts to the English localizers compared to China or the Asian ones. There's a weird delay thing in relationship stuff, but I think it's been better. Just the response to the West of these games.
And I've made sure to pre-order that as soon as I saw that. I'm a little worried that I don't recall seeing it being announced, but Ease 10 being...
it hasn't had an official localization yet. Yeah. I'm waiting to. I'm going to buy the collector's as well.
Yeah, because it's...
And I went to Tokyo Xanadu to get the Switch port, because they had one in Japan earlier, I think a few months back. Access, I think, owns the rights to that. I'm surprised they haven't announced it. And there's rumors there'll be a sequel to that one.
Ooh, nice.
So that's like Persona with like Ease elements, is how people like to describe that one.
That's awesome. That one's right up my alley too.
Need to complete my playthrough. I've been so bad at it. Same with Ease 8 and 9. I need to complete my playthroughs.
Yeah, Ease 8 I think is probably like the best of them, but my favorite, I'm weird where my favorite is the third one, Oath and Felghana. Like it's
that one it just got a Japanese Switch release. I want that to be ported here.
Yeah, and
I can play it.
It is not easy. It is very, very hard, but it's done so well, and it's like that was actually because I played that one back when it was on the Super Nintendo, when me and my brother did, when we were like 10 and 12 or 11 and 13 or something, and like it played like Zelda 2, where it's side-scrolling and everything, and admittedly it didn't run well. It wasn't that good of a version, but I remember the music was just absolutely phenomenal, and so I'm like, okay, that was my entry point to the East series a couple years ago, and instead they turned it into kind of like a kind of that isometric, almost Zelda-like style, where it's action RPG, and they took the really good music and made it phenomenal. Probably a top 10 soundtrack.
Falcom music's some of the best. Right up there with Xenoblade. I think that's also contributes to why I love these franchises.
Yes, yeah. I think I read something where they actually have a band that actually makes that that does the music, and it's like it's amazing.
It's remarkable the amount of just quality they released over the years.
It's crazy. And
have you read the novel actually for Ease 8? Go back to Ease 8.
I haven't actually.
It just came out. I'm very tempted to get it. Want to read reviews first, but
yeah, you gotta be careful because they're spoilers and whatnot, and it's
I need to play the game, like finish the game first, but I definitely want to. Like, it would be cool if they start serializing more, but I feel like that would be a good way to spread more Falcom love. And if they start make a Trails novel too.
Yes,
it'd be awesome.
If there's ever a series, I would imagine Trails would be much better suited than the Ease series. But not to say there isn't a lot of dialogue with Ease, because there is, but just
not as much as Trails. That's true.
Yeah, there's just so much character depth with everybody in Trails and / Kiseki. It's amazing. But I still to this day think that Final Fantasy still is my go-to favorite RPG series. It's one of those things where I've played every single one of the mainline, a couple of the spin-offs and everything, and almost every single version of every mainline entry. And admittedly, one of the things that I with my small experience with Kiseki is, and with my experience with the most recent version of the Ease series, is that the consistency and the quality has been there on every single one of the Ease, the most recent versions of the Ease, and all of the Kiseki games. I cannot say that with the Final Fantasy series, but one of the things with Final Fantasy is the innovation in the ever, like, let's try this. If anything Final Fantasy does well is they like to try something new with every single one of the iterative series, and I really have to give them credit, because sometimes it works with when they go from like Final Fantasy 3 to 4, going from turn-based to ATB, active time battle. Sometimes it doesn't when you go to something like Final Fantasy 2 and you throw out experience points and levels, and the only way to increase stats is to beat the crap out of each other in long-winded grinding base battles. So and I know you had mentioned that you were playing through the OG Final Fantasy VII. Have there been any others in the series that you've gone through?
My first one was 12 on the PS2, and I loved 12 so much. It was well, at the time I was starting to dabble into like MMORPGs, like with RuneScape and WoW. So to have a single player experience that was kind of similar, I wasn't having. I didn't like the social aspects.
Yeah.
MMOs.
See, I loved 12 because it was an MMO, but I'm not like sometimes I'm not very people-y. So like I don't want to have to deal with.
I just want to play my single player experience and have fun.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And so like Final Fantasy 12 like perfectly encapsulated that. And
and the gambit system I thought was innovative. I thought it was cool. I had fun like designing, what all their commands would be, and there was just so much customization. I haven't played the Zodiac Age one, which I heard polished it up a bit, made it a bit easier for people, but I don't know. My 16-year-old self could do the original one just fine. I don't think it was that bad.
Yeah, and it's funny. I did the Zodiac Age on the actually I did it on PS4, and then I also played it on the Switch. And the Switch one, they've done updates to the PS4 one where it's now equivalent to it. But like the Zodiac Age compared to the original, when the original you could have all the blocks on the license board filled out. You could be whatever. You do any sort of weapons and magic. Zodiac Age, they limit that. You can't just have freestanding people doing everything. So like you have to plan out who your characters are going to be and what they're going to do, and like that adds a whole level of depth. So like I'm going to have Vaughn be a thief / sword fighter, and he's going to excel at quick up close combat, but then I'm going to have Ash be a red mage, battle mage / black mage, so that she's got the whole gambit of spells, and she's always going to be in the back casting magic, because they've also they improved Zodiac Age where if you remember 12, when you try and cast a spell, everything stops, and then it's almost kind of like old school Final Fantasy where nothing can happen until
I don't think I did spells that much, maybe.
Yeah, it was,
I think that's what happened.
They did that really slow with 12, and with Zodiac Age, it was more seamless. Okay, Ash can cast her spell, and now Vaughn can continue to attack, but now the enemies can continue to attack while Ash is casting and initiating the spell. So it's really something where like it felt like everything was really a lot more streamlined. And
do you think they took inspiration from the first Xenoblade?
I could see that. Honestly, like where so many of the arts are going on and everything, like because one of the things
it'd be interesting if that's what influenced their design decisions.
Because one of the things that I got so into Xenoblade was, oh my gosh, this is kind of like Final Fantasy 12, but like a little more simplified in a way. So like I'm like, okay, that's how I can totally get into that.
Yeah, I think that's what initially, I fell in love with Xenoblade, like, immediately, because it reminded me so much of 12. And it had a better story, 12, sadly.
I mean, let's be honest, it was a lot more character depth, there was a lot more plot twists and everything. When I played through Zodiac Age, I actually enjoyed that more, because I think I was older then. So like, okay, this is more of a political intrigue kind of a plot. That's like, now that I'm older and I kind of get that.
Yeah, in high school, I think the end, I was expecting something epic to happen, and then it fell flat for me. I was like, I just beat this hard boss, and now.
Because like all of these JRPGs, usually it's like end of the world scenarios and everything, and like that's not 12. 12 really doesn't. have that sort of everything's all at stake. And that, to be honest, that's what I really liked about the Kiseki series, the Trail series, is that at the end of 1, it wasn't like the end of the world, or I'm going to avoid spoilers here, but like the ends of 1 and 2, it's not like the world's going to end when you finish the game, but there are still stakes high enough to where, okay, this is what's going to happen, what's going to go on with that. Now the reverse.
Great job at twists too.
Yes.
And cliffhangers.
Yes, that's what makes those so awesome, and that's not the case with Xenoblade, where all 3 of them are their own end of the world struggles.
They're more self-contained, so I don't know if you had a chance to play Future Redeemed yet. It was cool how they reconnected everything.
That's the 3 DLC.
The DLC. Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh!
Came out. Yeah.
Just how that started. We're not spoiling anything with how Future Redeemed starts. It literally starts with the main characters of the first 2 Xenoblade working with the villain of the 3rd one to fight against who was a really good guy in the first one. And it's like 5 minutes into it, I'm like, what the flip? This is nuts. And then
yeah.
my dumb butt, I'm 2 hours into Future Redeemed, and I'm like, why? Okay, why do I recognize Benjamin or Matthew? Was it Matthew? Thank you. I'm so sorry. I think Benjamin is the main character of like Mystic Quest or something. But
Right.
It's like, why do I recognize Matthew? And what's with? I'm like, okay, I know who Glimmer is. It's very obvious who she is. And then it's a thing where like, okay, there's Shulk, there's Rex, and then it's like, I'm like, okay, wait a second. And then I remember booting up the main part of the main game of 3 and going to a certain location in 3, and I'm like, oh my god, that's who they are. And like,
Yep. It was so many connections made. I think they did a great job at wrapping up Xenoblade's arc.
Do you think they're going to do a physical for Future Redeemed like they did with
point, I don't think so, which is a shame. It's really sad. I'm hoping at least in Japan they release one with English, but we'll see.
I think
sometimes they do that. Like they've done that with Zelda Breath of the Wild and Splatoon. They do like a compilation sort of thing, all in one pack.
I'm gonna have to get the physical of that if they do that with 3. Like,
even if it's in Japanese, I would still probably buy it.
Yeah, exactly.
That DLC was wonderful. It really deserves its own physical.
Like I'm going to be working on like a top 23 for 2023 video, and I am going to highlight the DLC for Xenoblade 3. It is that good. Gosh.
Yeah, it's definitely one of my favorite games of the year.
Man,
if not favorite, but.
What kind of off topic on that? What would you say is in your contention for like top 3? I'm just curious, like, what are some of your like best of 2023 that you played? Keeping in mind, if you've played old games that weren't released in 2023, that still counts.
Yeah,
that's how I'm doing mine.
Yeah, definitely Future Redeemed's up there. Trails to Azure's up there. The last one, hard. Yeah, there's a lot of good games. I remember what I played. Like, there's a lot I'm in the middle of right now that I think definitely could be up there. Like, I'm playing The House and Fata Morgana right now, the visual novel.
Oh,
that's
cool.
Really very dark and interesting. It's very long. Like, it's going to take me... I don't know if I'll be able to finish this year, unless I dedicate a lot of hours every day to it. Let's see. Like, I loved Rise of 3, too. That was just such a great way to end her trilogy. Yeah, it's hard to say.
That's awesome. No, I know what you mean. Like, I've got my list, and like I have an idea what I would put maybe in like a top 10 or a top 5, but I'm gonna have a heck of a time. Like, okay,
it's kind of hard. So many great games, and then also so many I haven't been able to play yet. Like, I haven't played Reverie yet. I feel like that would have been probably up there. But the reason why I didn't want to play it yet and replay 3 and 4 is because I rushed through those games because I didn't have a PS4 at the time when they were released. And I didn't have a Switch either, so I only had the PS4 games, and I just rushed through them when I had access to it. So I want to take my time, do all the side quests, because like I feel like whenever you're playing Trails, you have to have a walkthrough next to you, or else you're gonna miss stuff. There's so many side quests and other things, like you're gonna miss lots of stuff.
Because I had thought I did really well with Trails 1 and 2 to stop. I went to any time I visited
evaluations and stuff.
Yeah, and like I talked to everybody, like everybody in the village, and so like sometimes that opens up side quests and everything.
I've actually watched one twice.
Yeah, and like I don't even think of that. Like I'd be like, okay, at least if I've talked to them once, I thought it was good, but like yeah, sometimes it's you got to do it twice.
I feel like it's bringing back, like the old school RPGs where you used to have to play them with a manual or a guide.
Yeah, I mean,
now they're more accessible. It's easy to find them online. Like they have, I think the Trails games have a pretty good detailed walkthrough that won't like spoil you. Kind of just tell you things to do if you messed it up.
Absolutely, I think that's definitely the way to go on that.
You can also just waste a lot of time trying to find things when it's not totally obvious.
Yeah, because it's like as long as you just take your time with the game. Like I remember I wasn't in a rush to finish 1. I was a little bit with 2 at the end, but like except until I got that special part of the game where you play the other character. Because I had read online that's actually a harder part, and like I remember I took time to search the entirety of the area that this character's in.
Got the good gear.
I got all the gear. I made sure to grind a little bit just because I'm like, I don't wanna risk.
Can't steer you with the ornament stuff.
Yes.
I just want to look up builds.
See, I was good about that. I didn't like look online and see what other people use for builds on the ornament.
For a couple of characters, because some of them are a little bit tricky, like to get the specific like arts and stuff that you want. But,
yeah. I was good about that up until that special character. Although I didn't look at the builds, but I'm like, okay. When I looked online, I'm like, okay, is this really going to be it now with this part of the game? And like, okay, first stop of all the walkthroughs I've seen is make sure you're leveled, make sure you look at everything. I'm like, okay, but like for me, I remember for Trails 1 and 2, I feed my way out of everything. Like Fee was always in my party because she's awesome. Do they have a figure for Fee?
He's coming out next month.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna have to think on that.
She has a cute pose, so I'm a little concerned what she looks like on her, like on the rear view. I'm gonna have her in the corner.
Yeah,
I think there's some handy shots there, but
I think I probably have to do that too because
she looks so cute in the front.
There were
a really dynamic pose.
Figures that like I had to do that with, like for Final Fantasy VII. I mentioned the Aerith party dress. They had done that with Tifa, but like a couple hers, I'm like, I'm that's a little much. Her newest one where it's called exotic dress. Tifa, actually, it looks like well done, and I hate to say the word tasteful. It actually looks tasteful where it's not like way too provocative for provocative sake. I'm like, okay, that one I can get behind. I'll get that and have so that I can show that in the collection and be like, okay, this is good. We can
you don't have to like hide it if someone comes over.
Yeah, okay, I don't have to explain like, okay, everything's okay. This is character. She has a background. She's a fighter monk. She's one of the toughest characters. She's got a great like. I don't have to go into that detail to be like, oh, really.
Yeah.
Like no, it's not that. And roll my eyes. It's
but it's easy for me to get away with. I feel like, but
yeah, a lot less for me. But like, fortunately, like my partner, she's really good about having like, as you can see, kind of in the background. Like we actually have a mutual collection where she's got her own wall of stuff that I've filled up with all of her favorite stuff, like Spyro and Crash and Tomb Raider and. Which Tomb Raider? That's a whole nother thing. You got to find things that aren't that you have to make sure are tasteful. I'll say.
Yeah, I can see that.
But so yeah, I think that's pretty much my big thoughts and ideas here for the whole what we would like to save for in our collections, and sort of I really appreciate your thoughts and everything on that, as well as with the whole Kaseki line. Just huge shout out again for you, Emily, for joining me. Not only on all the discussion for video game collections, but everything just RPG related. Just thank you so much.
It's always so fun to talk about this with someone who else knows.
Yes,
I don't have that many people who know about like RPGs in my life. I'm outside the internet.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. It's so funny. So I've got my I got my weekly podcast with a lot of my cast and crew, where we've got a myriad of experience, but unfortunately I'm the only one with the whole RPG and JRPG thing. So
you haven't turned them to the dark side?
The what? I'm sorry?
You haven't turned them to the dark side yet? So
funny you say that. My partner's part of it, but she doesn't do a lot of the turn-based, and then I've tried with everybody else, and it's often like the time investment.
Well, maybe pick a Seki, type of turn-based, because I feel like it's more dynamic and it's more strategic, and I like the time and stuff you have to be aware of. That might be more fun if they want to try something slightly different than turn-based genre.
Yeah, and it's really cool because I jump right into that because it's like Final Fantasy X. It's essentially Final Fantasy X thing because it shows the order and everything like that. Like, man, you really can't beat that.
No, and I like how they use positions too to strategize, and you can have your formations already set up before you even enter the battle.
It's almost like a strategy RPG.
I think it's a good combo of strategy RPG with turn-based. It's a different type of turn-based strategy RPG, I guess.
I'm surprised they haven't used anything like Altitude to sort of different.
Yeah. And it's interesting because with the Kiro games, they want more action RPG too. It's a little bit different, which I think I'll miss when I eventually get to those.
Yeah, I definitely love talking with JRPGs just because it's like one of my bread and butters. I feel like I'm kind of like the Joker card, the little Persona reference, because I play almost any and all genres, but Final Fantasy and JRPGs are near and dear to my heart, as you've seen here today.
Yeah.
But again, with Emily, you can find her at her YouTube channel of Orbalology, of which I'm going to have links in the description below. So make sure, if you haven't already, check her channel out, subscribe, and ring that bell for notification. And again, just a big shout out for everyone that joined us today, and just hope you all have a fantastic day. Thank you again.
Thanks again. And